My blissful gorgeous thus all the pure-hearted wanderers became very dear friends of Hanumanji, and they were learning how to evolve in superior joys. Prince Angad became one of his great admirers. King Bali trusted him more than anyone, and Sugriva was unable to live for a single moment without him. Thus, the kingdom of Kishkindha became a lovely abode of Hanumanji Maharaj. According to intergalactic history, the demon race and many different traditions such as Daityas, Rakshasas, Danavas, Asuras, all demons were not necessarily evil-minded people. There have been many realized souls among them. By instinct, however, they are materialists, interested mainly in satisfying sensual temptations. They have supernatural power by birth, and this, combined with their materialistic attitude and lack of interest in spiritual wisdom, leads to exploiting others for their own pleasure. The state of Kishkindha was surrounded by the states of an extraordinary powerful demon race which did not originally belong to the planet Earth. These beings only worshipped power and success. They were great scientists and men of knowledge. They used astral traveling and telepathy and unimaginable weapons through which one should start the blowing of a terrible wind, shower of rain, uh, and fire. They also indulge in hypnotism through the use of other weapons and other feats of black magic. They used all of these arts in an attempt to finish off the original dwellers of the planet Earth and also to conquer other planets of the solar system. They were gaining more success day by day. This class of beings was interested only in materialistic accomplishments, and all their ambitions were sex and belly oriented. Exactly the same way nowadays, the Muslim civilizations and Christian civilizations are growing up, and their goal is only colonization, imperialism, and dictatorship. Uh, Only there are few good people among them, but the rest are completely brainwashing and controlling, subduing, and doing all illicit things. So be careful. In the north, history repeats when you don't know the history. In the north, there lived a very dreadful figure, Virad by name. In the east dwelled Khara and Dushan and Trishira. In the west, the terrible Kabandha reigned, and in the south, in the Indian Ocean, there was an island where the highly powerful ten-headed king Ravan ruled. This demon race was fond of wine and passion. They studied physical pleasure incessantly, and 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 Ravan discovered countless medicine and herbs and drugs and tantric procedures for everlasting sexual power. He was a great master of sexual orgies. He preserved his body along with immense sexual power for more than 1 million years. 296,000 years. Okay. More than 1,296,000 years. In this period, he enjoyed thousands of maidens from all parts of the world and other planets. In the bars and restaurants and many beautiful Many beautiful and young ladies were compelled to serve, and they were available for everyone's enjoyment. Only one condition was required, and that was that the male should belong to the Rakshasa race. Ravan married thousands of wives and produced more than 50,000 sons. He wrote a book in verse entitled Uddish Tantra, describing methods of developing sexual power and enjoying sex limitlessly. This race was addicted to meat eating, and they developed various ways of test meat. Throughout the night in their restaurants, whole buffaloes were being boiled in oil and fried. In order to rout out the human race, they spread the fashion of relishing the taste of human flesh and of drinking human blood. They never ate their own people. They wanted to increase their population so they could spread all over the world and to other planets. They especially like to eat philosophers and spiritual people, exactly as the Muslims and Christians do. They always persecuted this class. Okay? Mm, Means philosophers and spiritual people's class they persecuted. So although the whole world, along with a few planets, was afraid of this aggressive community, King Bali was fearless. He used to pay his homage to the philosophers' class and remained unconquerable even by the combined forces of this race. Therefore, Ravan always respected the vow of friendship which had been made after his defeat in the war with King Bali. Sri Hanumanji by nature hated this community. He was against any cooperation or friendship with this class of people. Therefore, deep in his heart, he could not really like Bali. He did like Bali's younger brother, whom Bali also loved like his own soul. Later, however, Bali's love for Sugriva turned into a burning hatred. One twilight, the brother-in-law of King Ravan, Mayavi by name, the son of King Maya, approached the palace of King Bali and rode in a great wrath. He roared and roared and roared. "Oh, mean, rascally monkey, come out of your cave, or I will break your head into pieces. You are all puffed up because of defeating the careless Ravan. Come out. I shall teach you what really power is. Actually, Mayavi had never seen Bali. When he heard the news that his invincible brother-in-law, King Ravan, had been caught by the Vanara king, Bali, who belonged to a less powerful race than he was very eager to conquer this gentleman and 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 then to joke about it with Ravan. Ravan, whose ambition was to become the emperor of all the planets and spread the empire throughout the entire cosmic egg, had been defeated by Bali. Bali, the greatest power of the earth, who had put even Ravana's head down, in turn would be killed by Mayavi. Mayavi would have a good joke on his brother-in-law. This was a very popular situation in India. In that kind of relationship, to enjoy this double fun, Mayavi arrived at Kishkindha. King Bali is a ruler, is a husband, is a father and brother, and even as a man of knowledge was unique and successful. But whenever his power was challenged, especially in a duel fight, he would get totally excited and so obsessed with a terrible rage that He could not recognize anyone then. Only by fighting and killing the opponent was he able to get peace and relaxation, my dear friend. When King Bali came out of the palace, he was full of extreme wrath. Mayavi, who had never conceived such a dreadful, terrifying, enormous-sized personality and dangerous face and huge body, became very frightened, lost his courage and ran away. By now Bali was obsessed with wrath, and he was in no way going to spare Mayavi. The only way Bali could be satisfied was either to kill him or be killed by him. Bali chased him. He was so confident that he did not trouble to take any weapon. He replied only on his two hands as he was an excellent boxer. Mayave threw a stone at Bali, which angered him even more. Now, how could he be spared? Because Bali's brother Sugriva loved him, he followed him, and because Hanumanji loved Sugriva, he followed also. Very soon Mayave found himself unable to save himself from the cruel clutches of the dreadful Bali in an open duel. Quickly he escaped into a nearby cave. Bali turned his terrible gaze full of wrath towards Sugriva and Hanumanji and said, "You just wait here about 15 days." Then he entered the deep dark cave. The terrible sound of boxing were heard, as well as the cracking of bones and bodies falling to the floor, along with the loud roars as they challenged each other. Sugriva and Hanumanji waited outside for 30 days, along with all those ministers who had come to see the duel. Bali used to be totally abnormal when he was in a spell of anger. He did not know how to exclude a third person in a duel. It did not matter whether the person was coming to help him or to fight with him. Bali never knew. So he would fight anyone within sight. Thus the minister decided discretion was better part of valor and waited outside the cave. After 1 month, all of a sudden Sugriva and Hanumanji heard the heavy sound of someone being dashed again and again on the earth, an unclear sound of screaming, the screaming sound of a dying person. Soon afterward they saw a swift current of blood flowing out of the cave. After observing this fearful incident, Sugriva became terribly frightened and said, "Hanuman, it seems that Mayavi had killed my brother. Now he is not going to spare me when he comes out of the cave." The reason was his fear was elusive, a voice created by the demon Mayavi. Before Hanumanji could give any suggestion, Sugriva stood up and rolled a rock weighing some many thousands of tons of rock against the door of cave and rushed towards the city. He ordered Hanumanji to accompany him to the city and to close the door of the fort. He felt that he remaining together, the fear would be less if they were attacked, or they could defend themselves more easily. The news spread all over the city very quickly. Everyone became terrified, for they believed that the king of Mali had been killed, and that the cruel demon was coming to destroy the city. All of the ministers united in thought and and felt that there was a great need for a new king who could guide them in fighting. All of them agreed, and Sugriva should occupy the royal throne and command the army. Sugriva was unwilling to have this position, but to no avail, for the Vanara race and kingdom needed protection. Meanwhile, in the cave, 30 days of constant boxing had made Bali terribly tired and exhausted. On the 30th day, he killed the demon and dashed him on the floor. Then, after resting, Bali walked towards the door but found that it had been blocked by the heavy rock. Due to the constant fighting, he could not count the days of his combat with the demon, and when he saw the door shut, his his terrible wrath was directed towards Sugriva, who was the guard. Bali had to use his whole power again to move the rock and make his way out. By this time, Bali was a mass of embodied, energized anger, and he walked all the way to the city gate and found it closed. He jumped the wall and entered the royal assembly, where he found Sugriva sitting on the royal seat, which was his. He misunderstood enjoying. He thought that the rascal Sugriva had tried to kill him by shutting him in the cave, and that now he had occupied his seat. He thought that all the love which Sugriva had shown him was just to show a deception. So full of anger, with blood-red eyes, he rode and jumped on Sugriva, who was quickly approaching him to offer him his respect. Bali dashed him to the floor and began to beat Sugriva's chest with his heavy fist. Sugriva could not bear it, and somehow he rose and ran away. He, he started running, but Bali had now become enraged in his chronic anger, and he had not learned to spare whoever he took as an enemy, but knew only to kill him. Bali chased Sugriva, who was faster than himself. Wherever he went, he chased. Thus, they traveled all over the world, right from um, North Pole, that is known as Kalarvat, to uh, Swet Kunjar Giri, means South Pole, and from um, Tanar Dweep and Nagadweep in North and South America to China. This chase continued for many years. They were so well equipped with the art of space travel that for them the world was not very big. Bali was so powerful that he would go around the whole of Eurasia every day before sunrise. He used to go for his morning ablutions on four seashores, the Atlantic and Pacific and Antarctic and Indian Oceans. Therefore, he would take his daily breakfast. Thereafter, he would take his daily breakfast. Okay, these powers were natural to people living during the time of intergalactic history, even though they sound fantastic to us now. All people living during this time were equipped with many powers. During this time, people were afraid of those who were spiritually advanced because their words possessed great power. Whatever a great spiritual man said happened, and people were specially frightened of being cursed by such men. All these